Welcome everybody to episode 103 of the ADV podcast. It's a special episode. We're airing it early this week because there's just too much going on right now that we can't ignore. We can't wait until Friday to talk about this stuff because it's urgent. There's all sorts of terrible things going on in mainland China, specifically in Shanghai, and we wanted to share it with all of you so that you could be kept abreast of the situation.
I would say in our years, like after we left China, we have never received so many people reaching out personally. Not even people that necessarily are fans or something. Just people reaching out being, please tell our story. Get the word out there because it's absolutely crazy what's happening right now.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to cover that. But we don't want to start on a super dour note.
No. So we thought we'd start off with something a little funny. But let's just get into what's new so we can talk about what's new in China, specifically with regards to China. Today it'll be mostly about the COVID lockdown, the zero COVID policy, and how it's really messing with people and causing a lot of chaos. And there've been some pretty crazy developments, which you're going to see shortly.
Yes.
So let's start with something a little fun, shall we? Now, what you can see behind us here is a typical PR stunt. We'll be showing more of these. Did you put the other one after this, by the way?
Which one?
The truck vegetable one?
It's in there.
It's in there
not
somewhere.
In this
okay,
part,
you'll see it later.
Yeah.
But they do these PR stunts all the time where they line people up and they film them delivering goods or whatever it is. And this is just to put out there on the internet to show what a good job the local governments are doing. So we particularly thought they did a fantastic job with this one over here. Let's take a look.
Can we see that again?
I think we need to see that again. I think it's necessary.
You can take us out of that.
Okay, I'll take us out of that.
We don't need to be in there. It's not a Japanese talk show.
No, here we go.
No, the reason we wanted to throw that in there was, number one, it's hilarious when people fall down.
Oh, sure.
Just in general, it's it's a certain human nature of
The
that.
fail videos do very well. Yeah.
But it is kind of important for us to point out the fact that the backlash when people posted this online was from the Wumaus, right? From the internet trolls, the nationalist types from China. They were saying that you're not allowed to make fun of frontline workers.
Yeah, how dare you? Yeah.
And I said, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. I'll stop making fun of it as soon as the Chinese government stops wasting millions of dollars on PR stunts to show. Because what this is, can you put that behind us?
Yeah,
What this actually is it's funny, but it's actually super annoying to me and makes me really mad. Because what this is you'll get like a slogan poster and it'll say, this area, let's say some Xinqiu, like this new area, new district, smart city epidemic prevention.
Yeah.
And what that means is they've got a government grant to say, we are using high technology to show the development of China for COVID prevention techniques. What that means is they put someone on a freaking hoverboard.
Yeah.
Like a pandemic worker, and have them like delivering medical supplies, and it never happens.
No,
this doesn't actually transpire.
You can, if you look behind him, there's another one on one of those Segway hoverboard things, ready to roll past the camera as well. It's really just a PR stunt because, of course, it's very ineffective. This is not an effective way to deliver anything in China by dragging whatever that thing's, a radio flyer or whatever you call them, like a wagon behind one of these things,
It's very much like if you asked a 12-year-old to like film a propaganda video.
Yeah.
It's like space age car repair, and it's a mechanic wearing an astronaut suit. Right. He's like, he can't get in there. He can't actually do anything because it's like completely inhibited. This is what you see here, and we're tired of it. So when they fall down, of course, human nature to laugh, but we'll stop making fun of frontline workers when they actually let them do their job.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, another slightly humorous thing before we get into the dour stuff, other than the face plant here. I always wanted to see the CCP fall.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's the people they make fall.
Yeah.
With their dumb PR stunts.
Yeah. Anyway, Chinese TV's state media's got to learn a little bit about translation, I've got to say. Because in Shanghai, it's separated into two parts, really, the Puxi and Pudong areas, okay? Because you got the Huangpu River that divides it down the middle, and then you've got the two districts. And this whole COVID lockdown thing that they were going to do, first they were going to do the one side, and then they were going to do the other side, and then let the other side out again. It was kind of like a staggered approach. Well, guess what? didn't work out. Now everyone's in lockdown completely, and it's been extended indefinitely for now. But while they were talking about this whole lockdown thing, they put it on TV and they said, well, they put the English subtitles on there because there are a lot of foreigners in Shanghai, right? That's the whole point. Shanghai is like the hub for foreigners in China. So they do have English media targeted at foreigners. Here it said, while the lockdown of Pussy begins tomorrow. They translated Pussy as pussy. Everyone in Pussy will be tested for the coronavirus. You know,
get out of there! Yeah, you shouldn't be in there.
Yeah, so many.
It's a pandemic.
So many ways that you could really just,
I mean,
make gutter humor out of this.
When they locked that pussy down, I was very. You gotta lock it down. Yeah, you gotta. No more promiscuous dating. You got to get married.
Well, they locked out of Pussy Begins Tomorrow. That's like when a guy's in the doghouse at home. That's what the wife says to him. You know what I'm saying?
I was thinking more like you got to lock that girl down. You got to stop cheating, stop messing around.
Maybe. Anyway, all juvenile nonsense jokes aside, we just thought we'd throw in a bit of humor because we got to get into the serious stuff, unfortunately.
Actually, I just got a live broadcast. Can you go back to the first clip here?
Sure. Hang on.
Just getting a live reading here.
This one?
The first one. Oh, yeah. It turns out those were pebbles that were planted by the CIA.
Oh, pebbles were planted by the CIA on the road. That makes so much more sense. Okay, so now, look, we have to, before we get into this whole thing about the COVID lockdown, we have to play a clip for you because it would be remiss of us not to talk about this.
We should explain it real quick.
Sure.
This is from the beginning when the Chinese government punished anyone that talked about the coronavirus, saying it wasn't real.
Yes.
Saying that it was rumors, and if you talk about the coronavirus, then you will be punished and go to jail.
Yes.
And we just wanted to remind everyone the mental state they put everyone in when they declared that it wasn't real back when it first came out.
So it's just a wake-up call because we've seen so much disinformation and misinformation come out of China, a lot of finger-pointing, a lot of blame, a lot of nonsense, a lot of deflection. Let's just look at what they were saying in the beginning. We just have to see this before we start. Okay, so.
1号傍晚，武汉市公安局官方微博发布消息称，关于当前武汉市肺炎疫情的情况，8名散布谣言者被依法查处。通报称，近期我市部分医疗机构发现接诊了多例肺炎病例，市卫健委就此发布了情况通报。但一些网民在不经核实的情况下，在网络上发布、转发不实信息，造成不良社会影响。公安机关经调查核实，已经传唤8名违法人员，并依法进行了处理。同时，警方提示，网络不是法外之地，在网上发布信息言论应遵守法律法规。对于编造、传播、散布谣言、扰乱社会秩序的违法行为，警方将依法查处，绝不姑息。希望广大网民遵守相关法律法规。不造谣，不信谣，不传谣，共建和谐清朗的网络空间。
Do you remember when that happened? That's how the coronavirus spread around the world. Just to remind everyone. I just always have to remind everyone.
Yeah, it's if you were to hear that and not see what it is, it's basically all the different Chinese presenters from state TV saying the exact same things like robots, reading a script about how, you may not spread rumors about a so-called pneumonia that's spreading and that 8 people have already been punished for doing so, and
build a harmonious society.
Yeah, and the internet needs to be harmonious, and you're not allowed to use it to spread rumors, and you'll be punished. That's the whole point. It's against the law. And now we all know that it wasn't rumors, and that the people that they punished that they were talking about were the doctors like Li Wenliang, who ended up dying of coronavirus. So we have to always look back at that and realize that when the Chinese government puts out official statements like this, that they are usually lying.
It's usually...
And it's self-serving. It's they're protecting themselves.
Sure.
So, don't forget where this all came from.
Yeah.
at the end of the day, everyone who's now got weird conspiracy theories buzzing around their heads, remember, this is how it started.
Yep.
Anyway, some things are not holding up very well, as you might see over here. We have the China state-affiliated media presenter. His name is Andy. And he posted something a couple of days ago saying, for clarity, Shanghai is not being locked down over the next 9 days. Half the city will be open and operating fully at one time. In Puxi, life goes on as normal. Today, despite Pudong being locked down until April 1st, this is a new approach to limit impact on the economy.
We thought this was a great way to start this whole shebang, to show you what's going on, because what they did was they got like foreigners, like Andy, for example. He's a agent of the Chinese government, right?
Yeah.
Like a propaganda agent.
Yeah.
And what his job was tasked out to go and say was to limit the impact of coverage. They didn't want people to run around and say, this is going to be crazy. What an archaic lockdown. This is so draconian. They wanted to kind of avoid that. So they're like, this is like a dynamic approach. Chinese government's only going to put down a lockdown in one area. Mm-hmm. The other people can go free and we'll trade off.
Yeah, right? So it's not going to be a big deal. There is something that I have to point out right now, okay, that we've received confirmation of, is that the government... We'll get into the whole giving out food parcels and thing later on in the episode, but the government has basically they're giving free hampers of vegetables, which are very unimpressive, I got to say. You have to pay for them most of the time, but the ones that they're giving away for free are only for hukou residents, so people who have like a resident, they were born in Shanghai basically, or they naturalized. It's like having a passport.
Sure.
People with hukous and foreigners. Now, I found it not surprising that they have decided to put foreigners above Chinese people here, because if you're a Chinese person who just moved to Shanghai and you're just working there, for instance, maybe you're a family member from out of town, whatever, you are not on that list. You are shoved all the way down. Foreigners get put first, and so do like local residents. And the reason for this is they understand that if foreigners are very badly impacted, the news will spread faster. Internationally.
They have access to the outside world, right? They have VPNs.
So they're unfairly putting foreigners above non-hukou holding Chinese residents. Just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah.
So when you see foreigners reporting, you got to understand.
So the first thing I wanted to point out is this mass testing thing.
Which you can see in the background there.
Great, right? Whatever. This is the throngs of people that are pushed up against each other for hours at a time that are potentially super spreader events every time.
Yeah.
So the Chinese government thinks it's better to hit those testing quotas than to actually stop the spread of coronavirus.
Yes.
Because actually, at the end of the day, they don't actually necessarily care that there are people getting coronavirus.
Yeah, because people aren't dying of it. The Omicron variant is not
They're dying
deadly.
a lot less, right?
Yeah, it's not deadly.
It is deadly.
It's deadly to people who are vulnerable, like elderly, people who have, pre-existing conditions.
It's not deadly compared to
compared to the other ones.
Variants.
Yeah. Really, it's not. Like, if you compared it to the others, it's not deadly at all.
Sure. It does kill people.
Of course it does. It does. I mean, but the whole point is that they are willing to put people's lives in this ridiculous lockdown and put people at risk rather than allowing people to quarantine at home.
That was my point. My point was that they don't actually care if people get it or not. The point is this is a propaganda stunt, and that's because Xi Jinping, the current dictator of China, is up for re-election. When I say election, I'm only talking about internally.
Yes.
There's no democratic election in China. This is just the CCP leaders deciding on who's the next chairman, right?
Yeah.
So we have a situation where he's decided that one of his principles of Xi Jinping policy is going to be the zero COVID policy.
Yes.
You can't backtrack on that. You can't walk that back. You can't say, hey, actually, I was kind of wrong about that, because what that is that's failure, loss of face in front of the people, in front of the party. And you can't continue being a leader in China. You always have to be 100% right. Every single thing you say cannot be walked back on.
Yeah,
right?
so it's more about politics than the health of the people.
It's only politics.
Yeah.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know, what's happening in Shanghai right now is the entire city is now locked down. Okay, and the lockdown has been extended indefinitely. And as we're going to show shortly, they brought the military in to help with this. Mm-hmm. Okay, but if you test positive for COVID, okay, Omicron variant, but you don't show any symptoms, let's just say you're totally fine, okay, you don't feel a headache, nothing, you're totally okay. Mm-hmm. But you have to everyone has to be mandatory tested now, everyone, nobody can escape this. So it doesn't matter who you are, young, old, whatever, you must be tested for COVID. If you are tested positive for COVID, you are taken away, okay? You're like just torn away from your family, torn away from your home, torn away from, even if you live by yourself, doesn't matter. You're torn away and put in a quarantine facility. Okay. And these quarantine facilities are awful. And it's usually you crowded in with a bunch of other sick people, which doesn't make sense to me either. All right. Because what if you're very mild or you don't really have it and then you're just thrown in with a bunch of sick people? You're going to get it anyway. It's just going to perpetuate around the place. The fact of the matter is, you are not given the option to quarantine at home, which is dumb. Because not only is it putting a massive strain on, facilities and hospitals and whatever else they've set up there, which they wouldn't have to if the sick person could just stay in their house for a couple of days to recover, but it's also tearing families apart and doing all sorts of other nasty things. And you're going to see.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, we're just going to get into it. So, first thing, what you see in the background here is a very unfortunate woman, and she's screaming for a reason. She's screaming because her relative died, because the relative, I'll put it back there. The relative is supposed to get dialysis, kidney dialysis, right? But because the hospitals have now been all filled up with COVID patients, right? And like I was saying in our previous podcast, the doctors that I'm in contact with are joking about the fact that they have to hold sick people at bay in order to keep healthy patients inside the hospitals.
Yeah, so there are COVID patients, but the vast majority of people don't really have any symptoms.
No,
so
they're
they have to go in there.
Yeah. So you've got these healthy, nothing wrong with me. I just happen to have tested positive for COVID.
Don't let me go home.
Yeah, but here I am sitting in the hospital, blocking up the space, and the person who needs kidney dialysis or has any number of very serious diseases or problems that need to be checked out, is just dying. Okay, because they can't get the treatment. There is no space. In fact, a nurse at one of the hospitals died of asthma because she wasn't allowed into her own hospital. She was there to do the COVID testing and stuff. She had an asthma attack, and they wouldn't allow her into the ER because the ER was currently being decontaminated or whatever for COVID. So she died.
Yeah, we also got reports of people dying of heart attacks at the gate of the hospitals because they're not allowed in the emergency facilities because zero COVID is more important for the face of the leader than people dying in droves of natural causes and medical issues that they're not allowed to see a doctor for.
Look, there's all sorts of horrible and, once again, you can't 100% confirm what you see going around on WeChat and so on and Weibo. But tons of videos of people killing themselves, jumping off of buildings. We've seen, you see it.
Well, you can confirm
okay, people are jumping off buildings, but the reasons
to
behind
get in their head is a different story, right? Yeah.
And like there's an old guy did it, and apparently the neighbor said it's because he was suffering too much pain and he couldn't get his medication from the hospital, so he killed himself.
Of course this is going to happen,
Because as a result... And, of course, people are just having mental breakdowns because of the lockdown as well.
Well, there's been so many lockdowns, and this is yet another one, and this one's super bad. This one's super crazy.
Well, I think also you have to understand that this is Shanghai. This isn't...
Good point.
A rural village where they can do it with impunity. When you're dealing with the rural parts of China, the government can come in there and they can do whatever they want. It stays silent because nobody talks about it. Everybody's poor. They don't have the means to actually broadcast to the rest of the world or broadcast out what's going on in this little rural village in the mountains or whatever.
Yeah.
Shanghai, on the other hand, is the most Western, most sophisticated city in China. And you've got a massive middle class and a big upper class, a lot of rich people. And they're the kind of people that are not going to take shit.
True.
Not going to just be stomped on.
So here's the deal: is I want everyone to understand that Shanghai does not enjoy special privileges legally. Okay?
Not legally.
No, it doesn't though.
No.
That's the wake up call for everyone is that it seems like an international city because China wants it to be the face of China. They want it to be the place where foreigners see and say, "Oh, China's on the up and up." They don't get to see some village in Hunan. Sure. They want to go see Shanghai, and yes, there's clubs. Yes, there's bars.
Yeah, you've got your French croissant. You can go get a coffee.
Croissant. You're gonna go to a nice coffee shop. You got an Italian restaurant. You got international musicians that come there and play. A friend of mine just had a film festival there, and now he's in lockdown. Right?
Yeah.
Stuff happens there because that's the most palatable place to show off China.
Yeah,
right?
It's an impressive city. It's got old European architecture. It's got new skyscrapers. It's a very nice city.
The issue with that is it's still in mainland China. It doesn't enjoy special privileges legally like Hong Kong. Right?
Yeah.
There's no border here. Shanghai is in mainland China. So when things happen from the central government, they still have to follow the same rules.
Yes.
Right? There's been a bit of leeway in the past because there's the Shanghai faction in the CCP.
Sure.
But Xi Jinping has consolidated so much power that when he says something, Shanghai falls too. Yeah. And there's a lot of people, like you said, that have enjoyed such a privileged life in comparison to the rest of the country that this is out of the ordinary for them.
We've always kind of made fun of the Shanghai bubble foreigners, for instance, because foreigners living in Shanghai, we always say they don't know what the real China is. Sure. And that's simply because you don't get a family mart or a concession store or whatever in most cities. You don't get like the brands that they have access to. They've got White Castle in Shanghai, okay? And they've got a Hooters in Shanghai. You can't get that anywhere else in the country. It's like a Shanghai privilege.
If you think about the actual...
Hooters is a privilege, apparently. But anyway.
Yeah, I shot a video there just because I was so blown away that there was one in China. Yeah. They were nice. It's like a family restaurant there. Isn't that bizarre?
It's like a family restaurant everywhere.
Yeah, but I mean, they say that, but it actually was.
I don't know, man. Like, really?
I would never take my family to Hooters here, but it was a different vibe in China.
I went to a subscriber took me to Hooters in Arizona. And there were families there, and
would you bring your family there?
I mean, as a curiosity, I think my wife would enjoy it. Okay. But I mean, they had like a birthday party. They had the kids stand up and do a whole happy birthday song.
Totally.
It's
Anyway,
a family restaurant. I'm standing. Okay, on
fine. My point of this is the absolute disillusion, the unbelievable status of Shanghai, like a Hooters, like a White Castle. You know, we're saying these things like there's some impressive things,
but they are when you're in China. Yeah,
when you're in Guangxi, when you're in the middle of Guizhou,
you're lucky if there's a Dicko's chicken. You know,
oh, dude, you're lucky if there's a place to spend money.
Yeah, it's true.
We're talking about there's roads without pavement, and there's people walking around without shoes, catching rats to eat, dude. Yeah. So we're looking at people like that versus a Hooters in Shanghai, right? Sure. So you have to understand the dissonance. Right?
Yeah, so that's why it's so hard for so many people to swallow. And that's why a lot of foreigners specifically have been reaching out to us that are stuck in Shanghai. And it's usually the foreigners that can't stand us, hate our guts. Because they're living in airy fairyland in Shanghai, thinking that China's Shanghai.
Yes.
And when they see us making videos about the things, when we criticize what's going on in China, they're like, you guys must be lying. I don't get to see that when I'm having my morning coffee at Starbucks, you know?
My point at the end of this, though, is that they do have to follow the same policies of the central government when push comes to shove.
Yeah.
And Xi Jinping said zero COVID is going to be the way he either goes out or he maintains power.
Yeah.
And he's decided that's the way he's going to maintain power, so they have to go through that. So we're going to go through what is actually happening.
Let's first of all talk about something that can happen to you if you're living in China, okay? There are volunteers right now. Now, these volunteers are acting like the Red Guard.
I have it up here.
That's I just wanted to put it. We'll play this clip for you quickly.
说什么事？
你们今天在网上发布了什么东西啊？
不是我们发布的，我们网上没发布。谁叫允义了？
谁叫允义谁啊？
你就说什么事？
允义是谁写文的？
我不知道，我怎么知道谁呀？
现在住几个人？进去看一下。
喂，哎，哎，你要是敢进来，我马上就报警。
你报！
哎，打人了！你打人，我马上就报警。
哎，不要冲动！不是你什么事嘛？你报警啊！你报！
你们是哪里的？你们擅闯民宅？
你擅民宅，我们是志愿者。
哪个志愿者？哪里的志愿者？
本选区的。
你贵姓？
你不要，你问我贵姓干嘛？
你姓什么？
你是谁？你什么权利？
你找我们干什么？
你都不敢承认谁是谁啊？
你找我们干什么？
叫什么名字？
你找我们干什么？
叫什么名字？
你找我们干什么？
那你们干什么？你们做过什么事情就找
你们找我们干什么？你说清楚。
做过什么事情？
说清楚。
没做什么东西啊？什么网上？
啊，网上我们不承认了。群里面做什么东西？
群里面没有做什么东西啊。
到网上。
So sorry, yeah.
我说房东不把这个事情解决好。
我们没有做什么那个违法或者什么事啊。
啊，你会拍啊？
群里面没有说什么违法的事啊。
你们没有违法。你们今天在网上说的什么？
在鼓动人家没有在网上说呀？没说啊。
没有啊。
没有网上，我们谁也没有在网上说。
看一下这个是谁？
这个我不认识，我不知道。这个。
Yeah, so guys, basically, for those of you who are listening, a group of these so-called volunteers arrives at someone's door. They barge in, like about 8 of them at least, it looks like. And they're demanding to know who is the person who wrote these messages on WeChat. WeChat's like WhatsApp, you know, it's something like that. People have groups. Yeah, it's a messaging group, but it's a bit more than that in China. It's pretty much everyone uses it. So it just shows you that if you write something on the internet that the local government doesn't like, you get snitched on by either someone in the group or they monitor the groups because they can. If there's and they do. If there's keywords, it'll get flagged and they'll look into it, right? If somebody typed something, if you write like Tiananmen Square Massacre, it's going to be like, they're going to look at it, right?
You're on high alert.
Yeah, they're going to see, what is this guy talking about? Is he trying to cause trouble?
Everything you've ever posted on WeChat is accessible to the government.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no privacy when it comes to that. They don't access everything because they just don't need to.
But they can.
But they will if something gets flagged, right? So these guys coming in and harassing the people and obviously trying to find out who made the post, and they would just take them away, arrest them, or do whatever if they find out it's that person.
This is the Red Guards, right?
Yeah.
Red Guards under Mao.
So yeah, and isn't it interesting how they wear red vests now?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And they're allowed anonymity. They're basically allowed impunity to go be thugs.
Yeah.
To go basically take the worst type of people to gang up on innocent people that have spoken poorly against the government on the internet.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to do. And the scary thing about this to me is that you're seeing one video, right? So people always look at China like some sort of, it's just an Asian version of America or something, right? Of course, there's videos like this. But you don't understand how rare it is for videos like this to leak out.
Sure.
There are probably thousands of instances like this happening, and you only get to see one.
Of course, there are many.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen a whole bunch more of these volunteers dragging people away and doing stuff. Yeah, we'll see.
It's rare to be able to film that.
Here we have a foreigner, and we wanted to show you this little clip here quickly.
So here's an update. I tested positive, right? There's nowhere for them to send me, right? I'm not allowed to go in the hospital, and I have to stay here, in this room. And this is what they gave me. This blue thing, and this blanket. And they're like, you can sleep here. This is what I have to sleep on. Man, this is supposed to be like a nice hospital. And this is where I'm sleeping tonight.
So when the
Yeah, the thing is, that guy's complaining about having to sleep in the corner outside, on that little mat. But what he doesn't realize is that because he's a foreigner, he's been given that privilege of
That's
not
like
being.
A big deal.
He has not been carted away to one of the quarantine facilities.
Right.
That's the big difference. There are cases of some foreigners going into the better quarantine facilities, which we've seen videos of, where they're in with like a huge amount of people in a big gymnasium or something.
It's horrible as well.
It's horrible, but it's not being locked in those little cages. So to him, he's like, oh, this is awful that I have to sleep on this pad. But meanwhile, they've done him a solid. They're like, you're a foreigner, so we're going to let you sleep here rather than forcing you onto that bus like we do to the locals, and taking them away to those real shitty little prison things. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, just to show you that. Now, we're going to play you a little recording of someone who's not in Shanghai.
No, different part of China.
Yeah,
we did want to give equal representation to places that were not Shanghai, which is the only thing in the news right now, because this is happening around China a lot.
Yeah. So now this recording you're going to hear is of how the lockdown has progressed as far as access to food is concerned. Now, the reason we're going to show you this is from about, 4 or 5 days ago, this particular...
In a different area.
Yeah, in a completely different area from Shanghai. But we're seeing the same stuff happening in Shanghai now. So we're just going to play this clip quickly for you to listen to. It is important for you to hear this out. And the guy who did this, he's a good guy and he's in some trouble. Let's listen.
So when the lockdown first started about 3 weeks ago, at first it was kind of a voluntary lockdown. We got a notification from the local authorities, everybody try to stay home, don't go out much, only if you need groceries, get that, and just try to stay home. Everybody do your part. Well, that lasted for about 2 or 3 days, and then they said, okay, we're gonna take it up a notch. Each household is gonna get a pass, and one person from each household is allowed to go out once every other day to buy food at the grocery or the supermarket. At that point, pretty much all businesses except supermarkets had already been closed. So that lasted for a few days, but it didn't last that long. And then they went ahead and took it up another notch where they said, okay, we're going to put everybody on a hard lockdown for about half a week. Half a week. You're going to be at home You can't go out. You can't leave your community. Yeah, if you need to take out the trash or something, that's fine. But you can still order groceries from supermarkets through your app, which there is an app called Meituar, which is, it's an app on your phone. And usually you can order food from restaurants and stuff. And you can order groceries and all kinds of stuff, and then it'll be delivered to you. It's a really, really nice service. For a while, you could still order your groceries through that, but the thing is, since nobody could go out, everybody was trying to use that, and supermarkets were just too busy. They couldn't keep up with the demand. Yeah, we tried for days and days, and we were unable to get any food delivered. We just couldn't get our orders in quick enough because all their slots were full. So we were unable to order any groceries that way. But at that time, groceries and little small supermarkets and stuff like that, they were allowed to stay open because they're an essential business. People need that. People need food, obviously. So that half a week came and went, and they didn't say anything. They just kept everybody on the hard lockdown where nobody can leave. So another development has transpired, and this one's pretty big. So the latest development is that all groceries have pretty much been ordered to close down, and only like your community's management group and the like local district government offices, they're going to prepare food for you, and you can buy it. You pay for it on your phone, and you can buy it, and they'll deliver it to you. I don't know how often they're going to do it, but you get no say in what's delivered. I've seen the picture of the foods they're going to deliver. It's like a couple potatoes, some cabbage, some Chinese cabbage, 2 carrots, some ginger, an onion, a couple radishes, just stuff like this. No eggs, no meat, no type of grain or rice or bread or noodles, nothing like that. Just all vegetables, which is pretty healthy. But what if you don't have any rice? What if you don't have any soap? Like, we are running a little bit low on dish soap. It can probably last us a week, but once you're out of dish soap, what are you going to do? What if you have no rice at home? Things like this. I mean, you have no say in it. Right now, we're totally reliant on the authorities to give us food.
This is actually what we've seen happen.
Yeah.
Right? So what's going on here, like for example, right here is a great little anecdote.
Yeah, what you're seeing in the background.
She's trying to use the app to get the government rations, basically, right? Yeah. And they have a thing where they have to how do you say qiang in English?
I guess like a book.
Book it, yeah.
You gotta like grab it.
You have to like grab it in time. Yeah. And the problem is that people are staying up all night to reserve these government groceries because what they've done, like what that guy was saying, is they've consolidated control over all the food divvying.
Yeah.
So you have a situation now where the government was worried that they weren't going to get the bulk of the credit for this zero COVID lockdown crap. So they were like, oh, what if people start chiding the supermarkets for being so altruistic and being open at all times to these people, right? So we have to take control of it. So they shut down the supermarkets, and they're like, we'll send out the food. We'll be the ones that do that, right? And the problem with that is that people can't get it in time. Sure. We've had cases, we've talked to people where they're, when it does arrive, people are stealing it and then selling it on the black market. The quality varies wildly depending on where you are. For example, like this was considered a good one, as a bunch of raw chickens like left in bags. But these people got meat, right? Yeah. The vast majority of people didn't get meat.
They're getting like cabbage and a couple of potatoes and stuff. But
for a whole family, for a week.
I'm going to give you a different take on that, right?
Sure.
Okay. Basically, China has a fantastic delivery system, a network. Sure. It works incredibly well, okay? We've experienced it. Remember, $2 saved my ass. I left my charger at your house that night, and I got it delivered literally the same day. Next morning, it arrived. You called them over, and they picked it up, and it arrived at my house in like a different city the next day. It works well. However, it's never been put under this much stress.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you've got 25 million people all in lockdown, all trying to order takeaway food, it just can't cope.
Well, not to mention the other cities as well. You're just talking about one.
I'm talking about Shanghai right now. Now, on top of that, the delivery guys are subject to very stringent testing, basically. Every time they pick in stuff up and stuff, they have to produce like all their papers, and it's a big thing. Now, the problem is, first of all, it's impossible for them to fulfill orders, right? So that's what you see. People trying to order, but nothing's available. People are waking up because they're waking up at like 1 a.m.
Midnight,
or 12 just after to try to get in that queue, try to order something, okay? But then everything's ordered up and then there's nothing to be ordered. So people are left hungry. There are people that we know who've been complaining that they can't have access to water and very basic things, because in China you can't drink the tap water.
I had a buddy of mine, actually. He tried to take a picture of the shelves of where they deliver the food, because they keep getting stolen, right?
Yeah.
So he tried to take a picture, or like a little video with his phone, of these shelves. And a lot of the residents there, the Chinese residents there, were calling him a foreign spy, saying, why do you need to take those shelves? And then they talked about this foreign act, like foreign filming act. So he's not allowed to do that. So they're going to call the cops on him and stuff. There's crazy like paranoia. Yeah. People aren't getting their stuff.
So basically it's gotten to a point now where nobody can order anything online by themselves anymore because it's all jammed up. Then they start this idea that every community, like every housing building, like the Guanli-chu or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so the management office now is set up like WeChat groups for each building. And then what happens is everybody kind of can order from that central management office. They set up a little portal where people can go and in the WeChat group order.
Again, and I suspect this is because the government wants the credit for the food.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm sure they do. But the fact of the matter is, then what you're doing is instead of getting like 1 billion orders coming out of this thing, you get one bulk order. That still wasn't working out, okay? Then they decided that they're going to completely scrap this whole idea, and then the government's going to supply you with like every household with a little package.
Sure.
Okay, and another reason, first of all, they're charging for these packages 3 times the usual price that vegetables would normally cost. And it's mandatory. You have to pay it. If you want food, you have to buy this stuff, right? So they're charging more for it. But here's the thing. I suspected a while ago that they're going to start blaming the delivery guys as a means of spreading the virus. And that's why they want to cut them out. Right. And it turns out, from what I've been reading now, is that's what they're saying now.
Well, we did get footage of the Red Guards, those volunteers, actually taking down delivery drivers.
Well, it makes sense. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I think it is true that they've now, because they cannot stop the spread of Omicron, right?
No.
It keeps spreading.
Yeah.
So they keep reaching for reasons. They're like, oh, people are going out to buy their food, so that must be a reason. Stop them going out. Okay, then they're like,
what's the newest one? It came from Korea. It's coming from
Korean clothes.
Clothing.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, they're saying clothing brands are bringing it in anyway, which is dumb. The thing is, then they're like, oh, it must be the delivery guys because they're going from place to place. They're probably spreading it, so we're going to cut that out. Only government, stormtrooper hazmat people are allowed to deliver anything now.
Right.
So people are kind of stuck, and they're stuck in a situation where you're supposed to get free deliveries from the government, like a package for every couple of days you receive one, right? And some privileged foreigners who are on that list are getting free deliveries. But
and they want to do that so they can spread propaganda to say, we got our deliveries.
But for the not so privileged, they have to pay. And they have to pay a lot. And even the privileged ones are paying. Yeah, and then they don't receive it. And it gets stolen as well.
That's a huge. The stealing thing is a huge thing, because what a lot of people are doing is stealing it and then selling it upmarket. They're finding a way to profit.
People are like bartering now with their neighbors. I'm reading all these stories about people
give
like
you a cucumber.
Yeah, it's like, cabbage. I'll give you some canned sodas for a head of lettuce or whatever.
Right.
There's all sorts of stuff like that going on. It's ridiculous, the kind of things that are going on. Anyway,
so let's keep going. I want to show you some more stuff about
let's keep going. So it's very difficult.
This is sent to me by a subscriber.
Yeah.
In the front of the building. It's just a bunch of raw chickens, but they got meat, like I said. That was rare. Okay, so here's some screenshots of an example. This is another subscriber sent this. Everything's gone, right? So all these rationed things here that you see, some noodles.
You can't order them, they're gone.
You can't order, they're gone. They're just gone. So it doesn't matter when you wake up, doesn't matter when, you cannot get your hands on these food products right now.
Yeah.
So this whole fantasy about the government taking care of everyone is being propagated by state media in China. But actually, when you look at the nitty-gritty of it, everyone on the ground knows, and it's causing a lot of unrest. People are taking to the streets. They're trying to bust out. There's a lot of police. They've had to call the military, which we'll cover in a bit.
Yeah.
And it's causing a lot of unrest because people are not used to this in Shanghai.
No, they're not.
This is a next level oppression. If you look here on the left here, this is for a city in Jiangxi. I wanted to cover areas that were not necessarily just Shanghai.
Jiangxi is very far away from Shanghai.
Yes, it's also eastern China, but it's way in the south.
Yeah. We used to ride there all the time.
We used to spend a lot of time there. I always had fun there. Very rural, though.
Yeah.
So anyway, this city here is they put out this government statement. They said, listen, you're gonna have to go into quarantine if you come back, right?
Yeah, if you have a positive,
case. So if you come back and you have a positive case, and you have to pay for that facility, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be 100 RMB per day for food and 200 RMB per day for your like living facility. I mean, this is a box, right?
Yeah, it's one of those. You've probably seen it circulating around where they have like, it's kind of like a quarter size of a shipping container.
Sure.
You know, and it's this little thing
like
with
made of
bars on the windows. You know,
tin and plastic or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway. That turns out to be about let's say $50 a day, right?
Yeah.
Now for a rural person
That's
in Jiangxi,
super
that's
expensive,
astronomical. I mean,
dude.
some of these people are making 300 RMB per week.
Yeah,
right?
or even per month in
or
some cases.
in some cases.
Yeah, very,
right?
very rare. Like, but still, that's a huge amount of money, 300 RMB.
So the problem with that is that they know people aren't going to be able to pay this. It's a very poor province, right?
Sure.
They know a lot of people are going to be able to pay this, and this is a very good example here. If you're not able to pay that before your time is up in your quarantine facility, you actually get put on a list which is related to the social credit system. You actually get your social credit system points reduced.
Yeah. Did they not say you're not allowed to leave until you pay up?
Yes.
Yeah. So you're going to be stuck there as well.
Well, if you don't, then you're on the list, right?
Sure.
For the social credit system. So it was really interesting to see an example of quarantine, the current lockdown being tied to the social credit system, which has been implemented in certain areas.
And also the
China.
fact that the quarantine facilities aren't free.
No.
You know, because a lot of people are seeing the Chinese government as this altruistic, you know, entity that's just looking after the people, and they're taking care of this situation. Yeah. And don't you worry, if you get COVID, they're going to isolate you for a while. You're going to be okay. What they don't point out is that throughout this entire COVID episode, every time you've had to quarantine, you've had to pay for your own hotel. You've had to pay for your own food. You've had to pay for your own expenses.
This is not a communist country like you may fantasize about.
They're not there to like look after you. They're there to charge you. They're there to imprison you and then charge you for that imprisonment.
I do want to say something. Go to the next slide. I want to say something real quick, and I'll bring it up at the end after this kind of marinates. The idea that the advantage of an authoritarian system is you get to... You have some of your freedoms reduced. You have freedom of speech reduced, freedom of religion, let's say, freedom of assembly. But the average person, by and large, doesn't use those freedoms anyway. That's the idea, right? So a lot of people will chide authoritarian systems because, okay, you take a hit for that kind of stuff, for social stability as a reward, and then also infrastructure. Everything can be made quickly because you don't have to go through bureaucracy and red tape, right?
Sure.
The reality of the situation is the benefits of the authoritarian society are usually claimed as being... In crisis, a country like China could deal with something very well, right?
Yes.
When you actually look at it, UK, New Zealand, the US, right? You had a situation where people are like, wow, we're going to have to prepare for this. This is crazy, blah, blah, blah. What people thought or saw as like chaos or whatever is absolutely nothing compared to what you're seeing in China. China, this authoritarian system that doesn't have to go through red tape and has all this ways to procure ways for their citizens to be able to get through this, right?
Yeah.
Providing them with everything they need actually doesn't happen.
No.
And it's almost anarchy because they're not set up for this. In fact, it's the polar opposite of how China operates. Yeah. China operates in a knee-jerk reaction and can't deal with the slightest bit of issue. There's never any preparation for it.
Right.
It's the opposite of what they're trying to portray.
Correct.
And it's something that you'll see throughout this. But this is a journalist for the BBC. He's currently in Shanghai.
Yes.
Read through what he was saying.
This is just some of his tweets. This is from yesterday. He says, Shanghai's strict lockdown has been extended indefinitely, and it's still impossible to order food and water. Got up at 5:30 a.m. again today, but still system gridlock. As I tried to place my order, my basket depleted as essentials sold out. Madness. Next, he says, nobody is allowed outside. Not even one person to collect essentials. Given vegetables yesterday by government, but only enough for a couple of days. Need meat, rice, eggs, and most importantly, water. Many of my friends in the same position. What about the elderly who don't use apps? ? Now, again, before we continue with his reading his thing, I got to say, water is very important.
Very.
Shanghai is China's most sophisticated.
Oh, it's definitely the best city.
Top of the line city.
Sure.
It's the jewel of, the pearl of the Orient, as all that nonsense. Guess what? You cannot drink the tap water there. As you can't drink the tap water anywhere in China. You'd think if they're going to get it right somewhere, that would be Shanghai.
You'd think, but it's no.
But you
not
can't.
even not even near the level of being able to drink.
And
it.
boiling the water doesn't help. It's still full of heavy metals and other things which cannot get rid of. You can't get rid of that by boiling water.
I mean, you technically could drink it.
Yes.
But it's not good long term.
No. So you have to understand that people are being stuck in a situation without water. Now, some buildings' waters are actually being cut off, so they can't even boil it.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to understand that it's even worse.
Yeah, we've seen videos. Actually, somebody sent us a video of their tap being turned off.
Yeah.
So that was.
So
nice.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, this is an essential that they cannot get a hold of. So I just wanted to put that in.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's keep looking what he has to say here. I stocked for a little more than 5 days, but many others didn't, as they'd been told it's a 5-day lockdown.
That's the issue. Again, I want to highlight this. What you saw from state media, like people like Andy Boreham, is that this wasn't going to be an issue.
No.
So the foreigners were being told that this wasn't an issue. And then also state media and Chinese was saying this wasn't going to be an issue. We're going to let you do quarantine at home. This is not a big deal. You're not going to be in full lockdown. You'll have full access to anything. Bam. What happens?
Yeah, then they changed their mind. And like they said, they had that whole plan to, we're just going to lock down this half, then we're going to let you out and lock down the other half. It's going to be a staggered approach. Guess what? It's not a staggered approach. Both sides are currently locked down indefinitely. So the people who believe the government, which is a very naive thing to do in China, they thought, okay, we're going to be in the home for 5 days, let's get a couple of things, although a lot of them don't trust the government, and they went to the shops, remember, and tore them apart. But anyway, the fact of the matter is, you listen to the government, you get screwed.
Yes.
Anyway, he continues. He says, you can't expect a house to survive on a few carrots and eggplant and cabbage for an indefinite period. Plus, we all need water to drink. For China's economic hub, it's a joke. Then he says, the limited shops that are open for orders are running out of stock. But good luck getting a delivery. The delivery riders who are operating are heroes to many, but clearly the system is unable to cope with a city of 25 million people panicking and trying to order essentials.
Yeah.
And he goes on and on about a couple more things. But you see, this is what's happening on the ground in Shanghai right now. People have been sending us all sorts of videos and stuff too, which, there's one unfortunate thing being in our position is that when we show someone's video, we put them in danger. And so we have to be very careful.
We have to pick and choose which ones we use. Because there's ones like, for example, I was thinking about that one with a tap in it, but you can see exactly out the window where
you can see where they are. People, anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing that we've got going on here.
The reason they're in danger, by the way, guys, for all you new viewers out there, in case there's people in here, is that if the Chinese government finds out people sent us videos, they are in trouble in China.
Yes.
They will be punished. That's how crazy
Yeah.
China is. I mean, that some people might not understand this.
That's
but
how it works.
It's crazy.
They love to control everything. And so if there's any media coming out that shows them failing, if they can squash that, they squash it. Anyway, now we're going to talk about some of the absolute...
Well, I wanted to use this as juxtaposition. So, for example, China pays foreigners, right, to spread Chinese propaganda. And the newest thing is to get people, like you saw Andy Boreham, that tweet saying,
it's not a big deal. It's totally fine.
You also get this guy living in China. And other foreigners that they pay to say, guess what? All you're seeing about this crazy lockdown stuff, that's just CIA propaganda, right? The reality is that we can eat Burger King here on the street. And what they're doing is they're showing areas that are not currently in lockdown.
Yes.
To make it and deflect away from the fact that there is lockdown. To me, when this kind of stuff comes out and these videos come out about, the true situation in China, it means something really, really bad is happening.
Yes, because what would be your motivation to go out there and do some absurd thing like this?
Right.
Because you know how insulting this is to the Chinese people who are currently suffering under lockdown.
They saw this.
Yeah, but here you've got as we know, CCP shill white monkey guy out there. What is he doing? Oh, look, there's no lockdown. I can eat a hamburger outside on the street. Everything's cool. I'm not wearing a mask. Meanwhile, the people in Shanghai right now, many of them in terrible situations, starving. Not only there, The whole Jilin province is still under lockdown.
Yeah.
So many different areas in China.
Millions.
Millions and millions and millions.
100 million plus people.
Just because he lives in, rural Guizhou, where he can sit in a place and eat a burger, he gloats about it, and it's immoral.
There is a good thing to point out here, though, is that that's not even necessarily his idea.
Of course.
The government's putting out propaganda like this for you to watch, to say, oh, well, that weird, crazy video of a lady screaming or something, that must have been a long time ago. Oh, they play into that whole, it's just fake news.
Sure.
Because people are so used to that kind of claim, right?
Correct.
This is the reality of the situation, is that we're seeing deflection. And when there's deflection, it's usually really ugly, the reality.
Why doesn't he have any sauce or lettuce on his burger anyway? He's like a dry-ass burger. Yeah. Anyway, here we are going to look at, again, this absolute absurd propaganda. Okay, let's play this clip for you quickly, and let's see if you guys at home can figure out what's wrong here. Okay? Here they are offloading the vegetable packages that we've been talking about. This is a little hamper that you get with about, 30 calories worth of food.
Yeah, that's the thing, is if you added up the calories, we're talking like 100 calories total for a whole family for days.
Yeah, let's go back there. Okay, I don't want to see this guy
when it arrives.
A burger. Now, pay attention. Okay, just pay attention. You've got how many people in this line here? Like there's like 30, 50, so many people in this line.
6, 8, 10, 12, like 12 people there.
At least, yeah.
Right, right there.
Okay, there's a truck. And they're busy offloading these packages and handing them down in a human chain to a building, okay? I want you to notice something, though.
What is this?
This is a parking lot. You can see the cars parked, right?
Yeah.
Now, if they were to reverse that truck to where they're offloading these things to, they would require 2 people. Maybe the driver of the truck himself and one other person could do it more efficiently than having... How many people are here? Like 50. 50 freaking people in a human chain for this bullshit propaganda that they keep pushing to say, look how well we're really putting in effort to help the people. Why do they have 50 people in a human chain doing what about 3 seconds of reverse gear in a truck can do?
They'll do like multiple takes of this as well. They'll pass it back.
They'll load the truck back up so they can unload it again. Look, and it's not like there's any reason the truck can't reverse. There are cars parked there. It is a concrete road. It's a parking lot. The truck is there. Let's see. Reverse. It's probably, if I were to guesstimate, that's about 50 meters.
Yeah.
So you could just reverse the truck 50 meters and negate all this garbage.
Correct. It's pure theater.
It's just theater. Like the Segway guy in the beginning falling flat on his face. It's just a waste of resources, and it's an insult to the people that actually need help.
Yeah, massively. Yeah. So, again, to juxtapose what's actually happening versus what the portrayal of this is.
Yes, yeah.
Let's keep going. There's a lot more to cover here.
That just makes me angry that they waste so much time.
It's just insulting.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're back to Andy Boredom,
the propaganda. So this is deflection, right?
Yes.
This is a
on
paid
March 30,
employee.
Yeah.
China pays foreigners because for some reason they think it gives more credence to their message.
Yeah.
They pay this New Zealand guy. Notice it says Andy Boreham state-affiliated media, Chinese state-affiliated media. With lockdown starting tomorrow, I received a knock on the door. Go down and collect your Vegas.
Does he not know how to spell veggies?
I mean, for a journalist that went to one of the best schools in China, you'd think his spelling would be better. But the local government has supplied all households in my area with a box of free supplies. Again, this guy's, if hell exists, this guy's going to hell.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what you're doing is the vast majority of people that didn't receive their Vegas, right? That didn't get their Vegas that signed up a long time ago.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll say veggies for now.
Yeah, veggies, please.
When they don't get them and they have a family with children, because this guy doesn't have kids or anything, right?
Yeah.
Not that I know of. Let's say you have 3 kids and you got your grandparents living with you too.
Yeah.
And you get 1 box of veggies and then the next day it doesn't even show up because either it's been stolen or it's been fully booked.
They didn't say they're bringing it every day.
No.
It's every couple of days.
Yeah, every couple of days. And not only that, we've had people been told that they don't need it because they're fat.
Yes.
They don't need it because they're short.
Yeah.
Not even joking. This is eyewitness stuff. They told us, please mention this, but don't say who we are.
Sure.
So we have people saying that. We have situations where people haven't gotten it from the beginning.
Yes.
They haven't got it from the beginning because guess what? They don't have a Shanghai hukou.
Yeah.
So you know what? This guy here, if you want to use those like loaded terms like white privilege and stuff, that's what this is.
Yeah.
Because the Chinese government is paying him, and he's getting his veggies, and they're making sure that he gets his veggies.
He's a propagandist. He's a presenter on state media. So of course they're going to give it to him so that he can present this and put it out. Also, it's not stable what people get. Some people have been like receiving a box of just garbage. You know what I mean? Like compared to other people. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Nonsense. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, some people are receiving a good amount of vegetables, a good mix. Some people are receiving a small amount of vegetables or just, like the dregs. It depends. It's not stable. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, you can also see the Chinese state media, this guy again, doing a nonsense for the Chinese government once more. Because if you look on the other side, there was a video that went viral of a guy in Shanghai walking without a mask on. And the guys were trying to force him to put a mask on. So he was just basically swearing at them, said, I'm tired of this, get out of my face. We're
not taking anyone's side here, by the way.
But our little propagandist here goes, Chinese state affiliated media goes and gloats about the guy getting arrested on Twitter, saying, a smoking 46-year-old Shanghai man surnamed Tian, so he has to like dox the guy, faces administrative detention after refusing to comply with the city's lockdown measures. Currently, residents are not permitted to leave home. Video of the situation. So he's gloating about him being arrested. Look at this example. So he's now doing the work.
Nazi shit.
He's doing the work of the CCP.
This is like gulag. Like send him off to the gulag.
Make an example out of this man. Shoot him.
He's a New Zealand person.
Yeah.
And he's working on behalf of the Chinese state.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what New Zealand's laws are, but like, holy crap, that's insane. Like going to go ostracize people. You're not the police, dude.
This guy probably comes from a line of criminals.
Let's not throw all of them under the bus.
No, just him. Just him.
Okay.
Anyway, let's move on. But, it's kind of infuriating to see foreigners specifically working with and defending this kind of nonsense. Now, here's the thing. Remember we told you if you get tested positive, you get carted away to quarantine.
Yeah.
It would literally mean you get carted away to quarantine. Okay.
Just play it out.
Take a look. But not only that, if you haven't been tested or if you didn't get your mandatory test for the day, you will forcefully be removed from your apartment or dragged away from wherever you are to go and get that test too. So you can see in the background, I'll just get us out of here for a minute, some people being chased down and dragged into... look, we had to censor a couple of things here because there is violence involved.
We don't show it.
No, we don't show it. The stormtroopers, they want the people in the van, and when they resist, they will resort to violence, throw them to the ground, beat them.
Yeah, we also have some shots of the inside of the van footage too.
Yeah,
but they basically go and they raid. They bring armed police.
I'd like you to see. Yeah, you can see how the security guards are all. You can see it in the corner. They're cordoned off an area so that nobody can escape. So nobody can flee and run through a little crack somewhere, So they surround an entire area first, and then they go into the buildings, and then they extract the people to be taken away to these prisons.
Yes.
Okay? Because that's all that they are. It's like a prison.
I mean, these aren't just people resisting testing. These are people resisting, I don't want to be locked up into... Because there were people that were locked up for 100+ days in the last one. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Oh, under bridges and stuff?
Yeah, we got some audio here. What's happening? We'll just explain to you. With the stormtroopers on the far right of the screen here, there's an elderly woman who hasn't been feeling well, and she didn't go for a mandatory test, so they're going to arrest her. Okay, because that's how it works.
An old lady, yeah.
If you don't go for your mandatory test, they will arrest you.
现传唤你于2022年4月4日12时前到上海市松江区九亭镇3省1级园居委会接受询问。我们现在依法带走，现在。
Her husband's like spazzing out, obviously.
Well, I mean, they've pinned him down.
Yeah. Well, he's not like fighting.
Well, he's trying.
He's trying to get his wife back.
Yeah, of course.
But they take you away, and this is.
And he shouted, "That's against the law," type thing to him. She's in her pajamas, okay, and she's being dragged out. This elderly woman, 60, I think she's 60-something years old, if I remember correctly, 67 or something. And they're dragging her out to go forcefully test her, possibly put her in quarantine. She's sick and she's been sickly and, hasn't been able to go and get a test or whatever the case may be that day. Just shows you the kind of nonsense that's going on here.
Yeah.
Okay. You got a bit of a mix on the screen here right now.
No, I mean, it's all kinds of interesting things happening.
Yeah, on the far right. Now, that was shot in... Where was that? I remember
Shanghai.
No, that's not Shanghai. That's not Shanghai.
Where are you pointing?
The people kneeling...
Oh, no, sorry, I mixed up because you're backwards on this.
The guys kneeling was... I can't remember where that was. But it's happening in the same time period, and it's in China. But people are being made to kneel down to get their codes scanned.
Yeah, bizarre.
Which is bizarre. But yeah, now you can see them loading people onto buses to take them to quarantine facilities.
So remember the shots where you saw the top down? Now you can see the people going.
Yeah,
it's an example.
It's an example. This is different. Like you can see the quarantine buses over here, and they're forcing people on.
Right.
And resorting to violence and actually just...
We censor it.
Yeah,
don't punish us.
Don't punish us. We censor the violence. Come on. They're just lightly tapping the people.
Sure. Use your imagination.
Yeah. To make sure that they get on the buses. Okay, now this is important for us to talk to. What you see now, the volunteers, okay, up there.
The red guards.
The red guards. And the blur you see on the floor is an Erlama driver, okay?
Erlama is a food delivery service.
Yeah. It could be Meituan.
Doesn't
Which
matter.
one is the one with the kangaroo? That's Meituan, isn't it?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, then it's Meituan. Sorry, my mistake. Or as the guy in the clip earlier said, Meituar, because he's in the north of China, and they say Meituar instead of Meituan. But yeah, it's got like a yellow kangaroo thing. So you can see the yellow blur. Okay, so that is a delivery driver who's currently being basically dogpiled by a bunch of these volunteers.
Volunteers. Again, red guards. You have to understand what a red guard is. They operate under Chairman Mao with impunity to go do the bidding of the Chinese government.
Yes.
And they don't get in trouble. I mean, they absolutely don't get in trouble no matter what they do. And they're volunteers in that it's like I said, the worst kind of people getting together to go try to punish people.
Like if you have a
it's mob
God complex, authoritarian, and you want to be a bad man, you can just join these volunteer groups, and you have connections with the local government, obviously. Anyway, so what they're doing is they're detaining and possibly going to go put this guy in quarantine or whatever the case. And like I said, I very highly suspect, and it has been confirmed by some people, that they are now thinking that these delivery drivers are spreading the disease now. They're like, well, where else can it be coming from?
It's only the government that can provide food and be the savior of the people. The actual heroes, these food delivery guys that are working their asses off day and night,
I mean,
they're getting dogpiled and demonized now.
Even before the pandemic started, these guys have a hard time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got a hard
hard life and very dangerous on the roads.
Yeah, they all get into accidents all the time. Right. Anyway, so we just wanted to point that out. Again, here they're forcefully dragging people and beating them up and stuff, lightly tapping them on the head with fists and feet in order to make sure that they comply and go to quarantine.
Most of these are quarantine. People don't want to go away for indeterminate amounts of time.
Yeah.
In these boxes where a lot of people aren't getting fed, and they're hanging out with a bunch of other sick people.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Locked up.
It's not cool. I mean, if you're asymptomatic, can you imagine yourself, right? We'll talk about what's happening now shortly, but you as a person living in the free world, okay? And you test positive for COVID. Let's say you get a home test kit or something, and you're like, oh, I'm positive, but you don't feel bad. Like, nothing's different.
So you decide to just stay home yourself?
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'll just stay in my house for a couple of days until I test negative, right? That's the responsible thing to do, right?
That's what everyone does. Yeah.
I'll hang out in my garden or something. I'll order food,
Should do, yeah.
You know, that type of thing. That's the kind of thing. But imagine you test positive and then you don't have a choice. Now the stormtroopers are going to come drag you out of your house, even though you don't feel bad, and put you into this ridiculous little cube or into this massively crowded gymnasium or something with hundreds of sick people, thousands of sick people.
That you pay for.
And you have to pay for it, and you're stuck there for days, weeks. You don't know.
You don't know. They don't tell you.
They don't tell you, and you're stuck there. Imagine what that feels like, because that's what it feels like for these people. You wonder why they're resisting, They're resisting because they don't want to go to these places.
Now that you painted a really good picture, I want to compound that with the fact that maybe imagine yourself being taken away from your home and you're like, oh, well, at least I'm going to be put into a medical facility. Let's say you have medication, blood pressure medication, diabetes medication, insulin, right? Well, it's funny because they're actually going to remove you from the place, your home, where you can actually treat those things.
Sure.
Because they're going to bring you to a place that doesn't have that stuff. They're going to put you in a huge dormitory or a metal tiny box where they're not going to give you the medication you need.
Right.
That's a huge issue.
Correct. Now, there's been a lot of hoo-ha, and in fact, a lot of the pro-CCP guys have been tweeting about this and stuff, about how the PLA, they're bringing in 20,000 troops or 40,000 troops. The numbers are all over the place right now. But let's just suffice to say they flew in military aircraft, and they've flown in and bussed in and trained in. What do you even say? How do you even say that? Brought in by train. Okay, a lot of PLA military doctors and nurses and medical personnel, as they call them.
Some of them were, unfortunately, some of them are just Shanghai garrison members. Because they're brought in under the guise of epidemic prevention, but what that means is security forces as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. The PLA does step in whenever there's a disaster, okay? Sure. That's part of what they do. Okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. The PLA does step in. And they, for instance, if there's an earthquake, they go in there and they dig people out and they do that stuff, okay? And they bring, whatever they do, okay? And there's usually a big PR stunt surrounding this every time. But it's interesting about the timing of them bringing them in.
Yes.
Because they're bringing them in now when suddenly there's a whole lot of unrest, okay? Sporadic little protests are breaking out. People have had it, right?
Yes.
People are breaking out of quarantine in certain areas. People are starving. So I think it's a move by the government to bring the military in so that if things get out of hand and people start to rally together and start to revolt.
People are revolting.
Yeah. But if it starts to revolt and it starts to get out of hand, the military's there to deal with it.
Yes.
Just like Tiananmen Square or any other number of things that they've put out in the past. So I'm calling that. That's the reason they're bringing in the military.
Think about it like this. We've already seen cases here where we've had thousands of people go and bust through barricades and take to the streets, right?
Yes.
China hates that. That's the kind of stuff that can spiral out of control. Chinese government does not allow protesting, despite what people may tell you. The only protests that are allowed is if they're state sanctioned, you sign up beforehand, and it's not about the government.
Yeah.
Maybe it's about property or a factory or something. Yes. These people are protesting the government lockdowns. That is not allowed. That is fully illegal. So they need to have the Shanghai garrison there and the PLA there to prevent any sort of snowball effect, really.
Yeah, correct.
Crazy.
Anyway, now we're going to move on to a slightly more, in my opinion, terrible part of this whole lockdown, to be honest.
Sure.
There's two big topics we're going to have to talk about here, which is important for people to understand why people are being pushed to the brink over here. And the first thing is it surrounds children. Okay, anyone who's ever had a kid knows what it's like when you've got a kid, especially a very young child, an infant, when they're breastfeeding, when they're young, kind of any time before they're 4 to 6 years old, they're very dependent on being near to their parents.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Before we get started, I just want to make a little warning. This is wicked disturbing.
Yeah, I mean we're not going to show anything.
No. But I just want people to be emotionally ready because it's not you wouldn't turn on TV and see this is pretty bad.
Yeah. Well, anyway,
it'll make you upset.
If you're a parent, probably yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, the fact of the matter is what they've been doing, and here's the official notice in English that they passed around on Weixin, which is WeChat. So I grabbed this off the official WeChat thing of the Shanghai something or other. They're telling you the conditions under which you are allowed to accompany your child to quarantine. And the conditions are basically only if you also have COVID.
Yes.
Okay. So what's been happening is if a child, because everybody has to get tested. Remember, it's mandatory, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're like a 100-year-old grandma or a 2-month-old baby, or even pets. They're literally testing cats and stuff, which we'll get into a little later because that's not nice. If the baby tests positive or the child tests positive, they are taking the babies away and putting them in quarantine by themselves, away from the parents. Okay, so we're going to show you a couple of scenes here from some of these quarantine facilities. And I actually got in touch with some doctors in China to ask them what the hell this is all about. So let's take a look. I like you to pay attention to the fact that they've got like these cribs, I suppose, where they have multiple infants that, to me at least, look, I don't know,
almost newborn.
2 months old, all shoved in a crib. Now, apparently, what I was told through my communications is that for every 10 children, there's supposed to be one nurse. Okay?
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be. That's obviously not the case because there have been some leaked footage of like, 200 kids with 10 nurses. Mm-hmm. The math doesn't work out, you know? It depends on what's going on, really. But what they're doing is you've got a situation where you've got overworked nurses. Anyone who's had to look after little infants and children knows how difficult it is to look after one. Never mind 100 in a room or whatever the case may be. And it's the age that gets to me, you know?
Yeah.
So here you've got a bunch of little newborns all stuck together. Here you've got a bunch of toddlers, probably like around about 1 year old. You've got wards that are just full of these, of the children, right?
Now, I just wanted, in case you just tuned in, this is a situation with babies, infants, newborns, torn away from their mothers and parents. They cannot come see their kids potentially for weeks.
Yeah, and in some cases given no updates.
The biggest issue with this is that, let's just say in some bizarre, because this makes me super upset, obviously being a parent. I think anyone can sympathize, but I want you to understand the situation when you have all of these children being carted around, taken away from their parents. Can you imagine how traumatizing it is, especially for the toddlers and stuff?
Yeah.
That have kind of like a perception of like, where is mommy and daddy gone, right?
Yeah.
But not only that, you have a situation where there is absolutely no way in hell that the infrastructure is set up to allow proper care for these kids.
Sure.
Because what you're seeing is only the stuff that has been allowed to be leaked, right? There's been situations where the children have died, which we're going to be getting into. But listen, how is a nurse supposed to take care of 12 screaming babies, like you said?
Sure.
How is that possible?
Yeah,
right?
I mean, look, there've been people that went into the ward said the children are suffering from nappy rash or diaper rash and the usual things that would happen when they're not looked after properly.
Of course.
But it's traumatizing, right? It's absolutely terrible.
No mother or father is going to be able to deal with this. So, of course, there's been a lot of unrest as a result.
Yeah.
A lot of the protests and crazy stuff that you've been seeing is actually as a result of taking people's children away.
Yes.
Right? You don't take someone's children away. And something that I've seen that makes me absolutely livid is that when people are having a discussion, I'm watching some of the paid Chinese government people that work for them. Right? Yeah. Some of the foreigners, American in particular, basically saying, yeah, I could never put up with this. They're actually saying, yeah, this is absolutely insane, right?
Yeah.
But I can kind of see why they do it, right? Yeah. I can understand why the Chinese government does it. So what you're saying in that situation is, me as an American, I wouldn't be able to handle it.
No.
But those Chinese people, that's fine for them.
Yeah,
right?
it's abhorrent to say something like that.
But on a grander scale, no one in any country would be able to handle this. This is pure madness. It's insanity, right? And the fact that the government has control over if you can have possession over your child or not is mind-blowing. And I think it's one of those situations where people don't know. They don't look at statistics, so you don't realize that China is like number 177 out of 180 for countries for like freedoms in general, right? Yeah. It scores a 9 out of 100 on Freedom House. You just think, oh, it's just a different country, right?
Yes.
That's when statistics start to make sense, because the actual control, and if the government wants to, they can do anything
they can
want.
Take your 2-month-old infant child away from you, tear it away from the mother and father, a breastfeeding young child who needs the care that, so much care at that age, and throw him in a random bed with a bunch of other screaming infants, all with different various diseases or levels of COVID infection or whatever the case may be, in a quarantine facility where you have no control over what's going on. Now, when I did speak to the people in China, the doctors in China, they said it's kind of like a lottery. If you've got a good nurse that's looking after the babies, they will call the parents and let them do like video chats and stuff, but that's rare. They're running ragged. They don't have time to do this. Look, again, it's not the nurses and the doctors' faults here.
No.
And I have to stand on their side because they're forced into this situation. They have no control over that. The government says you must do this.
Sure.
Okay? It's absolutely awful that this is going on,
Yeah.
Now look, there's been a specific video that went viral around the Chinese internet, which has sparked something which we'll talk about in a little bit here. it sparked an official denial. And this video over here, what you're seeing here is a mother completely freaking out. Okay, for those of you who don't understand. Okay, we're going to show this clip. It's pretty awful.
We censored it.
Yeah, of course we censor everything. And that's... She's freaking out because her child is dead, okay? That's something you don't want to go through. Okay? And now you can see, I don't know if that's the husband or the boyfriend or somebody over there is shouting for medical staff to come help. And I want you to pay attention to the stormtrooper over there. See, the stormtrooper over there is just standing there, doesn't do a thing, of course. Not my problem, right?
What are you doing? How are you not saving her life, his or her life?
Exactly. Just walk away. You know? It's heartless. So this... Okay, no, never mind that. Okay, this is a complete change of scene here. But I just have to say that this particular situation sparked off quite a thing, because this video went viral, and allegedly the woman committed suicide after this. Okay, this allegedly, we can't confirm. And it went so viral that the Shanghai government actually had to release a statement to say, no, it's fake.
With no proof.
Yeah, with no proof. Oh, it's fake. It's not true.
Right. They put out an official statement that says the baby was actually fine and rescued in the pediatric ward. It's a lifeless child, by the way.
Yeah.
In the video. And she's freaking out and allegedly committed suicide. But the government does this stuff. They do this with the beginning of COVID when they shut up the doctors.
Oh, yeah.
They do this all the time. They silence any of the people.
Now, again, what we're doing is we're reporting on an alleged incident.
Sure.
Okay, but I can confirm, having watched the video myself, that you're dealing with a very distraught mother and a lifeless child. Yes. Okay? And what they're dealing with, again, is they're dealing with the aftermath of this, the pushback that they receive when something goes viral. They're not dealing with the root cause of the problem, which is this ridiculous zero COVID policy that has led to all these mishaps. So anyway, take it for what it is. That went viral. It got scrubbed off the internet. It caused a hell of a lot of a stir, and so it caused the government to put out an official statement that this,
denying it. With absolutely no. But that statement caused a lot of unrest as well.
Yeah.
Because the people online said, "Okay, then show us the baby, show us the mother."
Yeah.
They're gone.
Yeah.
It's been completely wiped from the internet.
You may not talk about this in China.
So, well, there you go.
So, okay, let's move on to something else which is equally terrible.
It's just good for context.
Yeah, we just have to show you. Okay, now, what you're seeing behind us is, a COVID test being administered in a very brutal way.
Sure.
That's awful, that poor kid.
Yeah, I can't look at that
Okay,
anymore.
no, it makes my eyes water just looking at that. Yeah. But unfortunately, both Similk and myself have seen a video of a dead infant that died.
1-year-old,
that died because of a test. Okay, and of course, when you've got a very young child like that, if you're rough and you shove a thing in there like that, you can go through the soft tissue. They're too young, and it can go into their brain. And we've seen the video. We can confirm the video. The child is dead, and this is just another one of these horrible things that have resulted. Okay, so. Again, we've seen the video ourselves, so we can confirm seeing the video. We're not going to show that. We don't want to show that kind of thing. It's just
still messing me up.
We absolutely have to let people know what we're being shown, what we're witnessing, because it's important for people to understand that this is not some amazing situation where the Chinese government is helping everyone out and being sort of so nice to everyone and helping by looking after everyone's health. It's a disgusting thing that's happening here. Anyway, let's move on to something a little...
There's no little. It's
a little
terrible.
A little the same. Okay, what's going on in this is you've got a stormtrooper here. Everyone's calling them stormtroopers, okay, for lack of a better word. You don't know who's underneath those clothes. It can be military these days. They all wearing the same thing. It could be the police. It can be medical staff. It could be anyone. It could be those volunteer douchebags. It can be anyone, right? What they're doing here is, if you listen to what he says, okay? Okay, he said, He's looking for pets. Okay,
and I do want to set up the science behind this.
Yeah. Okay.
So, because of the lack of transparency in China about COVID origins or even how it works for the average person, the government has done such a poor job at admitting how it really works.
Yeah.
That they have attributed any sort of spread to such crazy things that now pets are involved.
Yeah. So like seafood.
I mean, it's been clothing. It's been horse. It's
been a package that arrived from overseas.
Ice cream. Yeah. Beef. Right. So it's gotten to the point now where if there's a dog or a cat or a pet inside of an apartment, when they go and look, they go and they kill that animal, right?
Yeah.
And the reason being is that they think, okay, well, we've cleaned out the people that are carrying the virus.
Yes.
But there's still a living being here that might have gotten COVID. And that just complete, like, unable to understand how the virus works creates vicious and disturbing policies that you're going to see here.
Yeah. So as Simuk was saying, when somebody tests positive, and there have been cases where if someone tested positive in a building, the entire building, they kill all the pets. Mm-hmm. Okay, we've got that's not like a made up story. That's official. There's like official. There's official government documents saying this is what we got to do, and the notices. Right. We can dig those up if we have to. But the fact of the matter is, when you test positive and you get taken away to a quarantine facility, they then send people in, stormtroopers, to like this guy's looking for pets, like in case people had hidden the pets,
sure.
Put them behind the closet or try to hide them. They're looking for pets to kill. Yes. Okay, one particular video went viral over here, which of course we're censoring. Don't worry, you're not going to see anything. I completely took the audio out because you don't want to hear a dog getting beaten to death.
And the boxes block everything.
You can't see anything here, but of course, people have these home security cameras set up that they can watch from their phone, right? So this guy's now sitting in quarantine, all right, and he gets to watch these quarantine workers beat his dog to death. Sure. Okay. So this particular video, you can see it was shot on the 2nd of March, 2022.
So 3 days ago.
Yeah, a couple days ago.
Oh, sorry, no, that's March. It was last month.
Yeah. Sorry. So it's last month. This particular one went viral, right?
Oh, yeah. This is the one that sparked off the whole thing.
Yeah, because look, they've been doing this a lot, okay? But this particular one garnered a bit too much attention, so much so that the government released a statement saying like, oh, yeah, our work policies were maybe a little out of line, and the guys maybe they treated the pet a little bit rudely and roughly type thing.
The timing actually for this is very important. Remember, this is a month ago because the government was claiming in this statement here was saying, okay, this one instance, we screwed up.
Yeah, and we will take, and we're happy to take the suggestions of people,
right? And that was being used in propaganda. But the thing is, keep in mind, this is a month ago. This is still happening now en masse. Yeah. En masse, though. Yeah. Not just one.
No. I mean, here we've got the guys with, again, it's censored, but there's a pile of dead dogs there, pets that they've killed and they're getting rid of.
Those are dogs.
Yeah, those are dogs. Here are cats in bags, okay, that all, like you hear about letting the cat out the bag. This is putting the cats in the bag, you know what I mean? But quite seriously, this is a very famous one from the late last year of a corgi that got beaten to death. Okay,
we didn't show it.
No, of course we don't show it. But yeah, you get what we're trying to get at here is that this inhumane practice of going and killing someone's pet just because they tested positive is standard practice now.
I saw deflection of this, that statement, that Shanghai statement. Can you pull that up again, actually?
Yeah, sure.
Saying like, we're sorry about that one instance. It's still happening today.
Yeah.
Because that actually didn't change. This doesn't say we're going to change our entire policy and we're going to stop killing pets.
Yeah.
This says, that one time, basically this is what this is saying, is that one time we got caught, we're sorry about that.
Yeah.
We won't do that again.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're still doing it en masse. And this is actually not something new.
No.
It's not just a COVID thing. Whenever they had like a stray animal problem, they'd be like, okay, now you got to register your dog. So if your dog wasn't on the approved like communist worksheet of like, is that a corgi? Is that a German Shepherd? Right?
Yeah.
Then they go and they would kill your dog right in the street. Right?
Sure.
Or they would go to your apartment if they find out and they'll kill it there.
Sure.
Right? They've done this killing pets thing en masse many, many times.
Remember, there are no animal rights in China. No, by the way, just so you know, there is no SPCA or whatever you call it. There's no Humane Society. There's nothing like that. Dog, you can beat your dog to death on the street and you will not get into any trouble, no legal trouble whatsoever. You can do whatever you want to animals. It's very evident in the way animals are treated in China, but there are no animal rights.
No.
So you have to understand that. So when they kill someone's pet, they're like they're a little taken aback when people are like, why did you do that? They're like, well, because it's just a COVID risk, you know?
Right. It's just the new.
And again, in China, it's always when something blows up on the internet too much. So when that one dog got beat to death, it created too much of a shitstorm, and that's when they have to release a thing saying like, "Oh yeah, no, we have disciplined the guy who did it. You know, it's totally okay." But that doesn't bring your damn pet back, does it?
No, absolutely not.
And it doesn't stop them from doing it to other dogs and cats and various pets too.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen like COVID testing.
They're
going
testing
on.
chickens for fuck's sake with a Q-tip.
Fish.
Yes.
In the supermarket.
Yes. It's dumb.
It's like crazy. And that's the thing is when you don't have any accountability or transparency, stuff like this gets wildly out of control. So they're worried about people protesting or whatever. But actually the reality is people should be worried about how out of control the government's gotten.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're killing the dogs and the cats unmasked
and taking your babies away,
that's when you may have realized, maybe this whole authoritarian thing's not really working out.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't, 1.4 billion people shouldn't live in servitude to one man that wants to get reelected within his own party.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
It's a huge issue.
And here's the thing, right? I offered a public challenge on Twitter to the CCP shills, and I'm talking about the Jayo Nation, I'm talking about Barrett, I'm talking about Cyrus Jansen, I'm talking about Guelo 60, I'm talking about all of these guys who have been linked to the Chinese government, do propaganda for the Chinese government, run defense for the Chinese government. I put out a public challenge for them to condemn these actions, the taking the children away and the beating of the pets to
say
death.
The government is wrong to do
yes.
this.
And not one of them could give me a condemnation. A lot of them tried to attack my character. Well, one of them tried to attack my character. The other one tried to say, oh, I don't agree with it, but I understand why.
Right.
Okay? But none of them came out and said the Chinese government is doing something wrong. And it shows you how you cannot trust these guys, because if they cannot criticize this very barbaric, very anti-civilized,
anti-human,
and this very inhumane thing that the Chinese government is doing by taking away people's children and killing and murdering their pets, if you cannot even condemn that, then you cannot condemn any bad thing that the Chinese government does. It shows you that they're incapable of criticizing the Chinese government because they're spineless cowards and they're under the thumb of the CCP and they're beholden to the CCP and they're beholden to their nationalist audience, and they're too afraid that they're going to lose their audience and they're going to lose their free meal ticket that they get from all this propaganda bullshit that they do. And they're despicable people and they condone in silence this terrible barbaric behavior. And I just wanted to make that public because I did offer the public challenge for 2 days in a row and I didn't get anyone condemning it. Just wanted to say that. Anyway, back to the show. I guess it's time for us to end this rather awful part of the show, to be honest. We've shown people what's going on. I'm going to talk about a couple of other things. Hopefully we can throw in something a little humorous and lift the mood a little bit. You know what I mean? Okay, so the next thing we've got coming along is we're giving Soft Power Hour a skip today because it's all about what's new. We're going straight into Wumau Corner, guys. And this is where we talk about what the haters in the Wumaus have been up to. And we got something a little ridiculous to start out with, to be honest. It's kind of funny.
It's still related. It's within the theme.
Yeah, it's in the theme. It's sinister, but it's funny. Okay?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're seeing here, in China, there's this tradition of burning up offerings.
Effigies and
offerings. And it's quite amusing, okay? And I kind of like the idea behind it. You know, if you've got a grandparent and they're dead, what you can do is
burn an iPhone.
You burn like paper things, and then apparently in the afterlife they receive these paper things.
It's a fun idea.
So you can burn paper cars, paper houses, paper women, paper money. It's ridiculous. You get paper iPads, all that kind of stuff, right? But I always thought, like, what use is a paper iPad? You know, if you receive it, obviously they're supposed to receive a real iPad or whatever. But you can burn.
Heaven, it turns. Yeah. So that 1 cent paper that you burn turns into a real life $1,000 iPad.
Yeah, and they also burn like gold bars and stuff. You've seen all that stuff, right?
I sure have.
So let's look at this group of presumably villagers. They're burning effigies to the gods to basically ask them to get rid of COVID. Okay, but we'll play it first.
休啊，休息了，回到日本了，美国去啊。人老月上来休啊。要回老家去，老地方去啊。哪里来哪里去啊，哪里来哪里去啊，到美国了，日本去啊。
Okay, we got to just tell you what they're saying. They're like, yeah, we implore you to let the COVID go away to a different place. Make it go to America. Make it go to Japan. To like, you know, anywhere. Like anywhere else. Yeah. But they're like specifically, they're basically wishing that COVID goes
China
and goes to America and Japan.
Just thought that was...
It's sinister. It's sinister.
Oh, but it's also funny. These eyes are so
They're so
evil.
dumb. I can't stand those freaking eyes from that generation. I don't wish COVID to go to China.
No, why?
They're literally
you
praying.
Have to be a psychopath.
They are praying for COVID to go to America and Japan.
Yeah.
Absolute
Thanks,
moralist.
Guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah, moralist little pieces of shit. Like, how about you just trip over and fall in that fire? You know what I'm saying?
And to be fair, this generation of this person is hated all over China.
Yeah.
This is called the lost generation.
Yeah.
They grew up in Mao's time.
Yeah.
And they were the only people that survived through Mao's time because they were the snitches.
They were the evil ones.
The evil ones that ratted people out, right?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
That accent.
Yeah, what is that? Is that like Xi'an or something? Oh, you know, it's probably Eastern China.
That's just that age of person has that accent in China. It's like it's an age thing, dude.
It's an area.
Sure, but that
it's
that
because
old
older people speak in dialects.
I suppose, but I'm so familiar with that dialect.
Yeah, it's a certain area.
When I think of
the experts,
Trunalia, you know, that kind of thing. Ooh, yeah, you know, they always have that.
Oh, you're talking about inflection.
Yes,
that's not a dialect.
Yeah, inflection.
Gotcha.
His name.
I'm calling it somewhere in Eastern China.
Yeah,
like
I want to know something like. Why, in order to improve your situation, do you have to wish suffering on others?
Because it's like ingaida. It's how do you say that in English?
It's like
it's
you're supposed to.
You're supposed to,
yeah.
right? Like it has to be somewhere.
You disgusting old hags, you know? Freaking hags. Go stir a pot somewhere. Anyway,
Zhejiang, yeah. It's Zhejiang. I called it. It's Eastern China.
Yeah.
I called it. Definitely sounds like Eastern China dialect.
Yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, you know what's coming next. I think you guys know what's coming next. We got another, we told you. If any of these
people in the chat,
any of these piece of shit shills end up on Russian state media again.
You stop going on it, and then you don't have to suffer this. So we have to do it.
Anyway, let's take a look, guys, because we've got another one of the page shills who, you know, works doing propaganda for the CCP.
We do have to explain. There's a lot of new viewers, by the way. That's amazing turnout, right?
Great.
So what happens is China is currently doing Russia's propaganda because Russia's state media has been banned off a lot of social media.
Yes.
So China, being the eternal friendship with no limits,
said,
okay, we'll run defense for you and we'll send our guys over to you, right? So they'll send over these, you know, the CCP, the Chinese government sends over these people that work for them to go participate on Russian propaganda state media to kind of like link them together.
It all plays well together. They're both friends.
Yes.
Now, the fact of the matter, this weird Scottish dude over here, okay, he runs a show called The Mother of All Talk Shows, which previously, it still is a Russian state media sponsored show for RT, Russia Today.
Right.
Okay. But since the big sort of ban of Russian propaganda, they've removed the RT logo from the top and they've continued to produce it, just release it through different channels.
And hosting the CCP shills.
Yes. So they host CCP shills. They still have Russian propaganda talking points. That's still the main reason for the show is it's Russian propaganda and using the Chinese, shills on it. And they removed the RT logo to try and trick people.
So we put it back.
Yeah, so that it's not black. So yeah, we put it back. So if you're wondering why there's an RT logo now, we just put it back because that's where it belongs. Yes. And that's where it comes from. Okay? So anyway, let's see who's good.
They had another one on. This is what, number 6. We keep telling them don't host CCP shills, and we won't parody this.
Yep. So anyway, let's take a look. What's going on?
My name is Brian Berletic, and I'm very glad that he has joined me.
First of all, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor and a privilege.
Now, would you like me to be the cat?
Absolutely.
Of course you could. More tickles on the back, yes. There's a good pussycat. There's a good pussycat, yes. Good pussycat. Good girl. Good girl. Now lick your lips, so got cream all over your whiskers. Yes, good pussycat. Good pussycat, that's better. Oh, what a good kitty. A trying day with all those people coming into the house.
Yeah, so of course.
You know what's interesting about this shill?
What?
Brian Berletic.
Yes.
He's a China shill now.
Yeah.
But he also still is a Russia shill.
Yeah.
And he was previously contracted by the Russian government to work for them.
Yeah, interesting.
For their propaganda. And now he does pro-Thai government propaganda and pro-CCP
so
propaganda.
is he basically a tanky for hire?
He's all over the place, you know. You give him a call, you go to back pages, you're lonely one night, you know, he might read you a little propaganda.
Exactly. Anyway, we just always have to include, whenever one of these shills ends up on Kat Galloway's show, we're going to show it. And they all seem to be going there right now. It ties them all together.
Stop!
Yeah, I know.
It's literally outing yourself that Russia and China are working together for propaganda. Just don't do it. Find other ways, like sneakier ways.
Exactly. Anyway, let's, shall we hit our worldview?
Yeah.
Just get it done? Okay, we're going to hit worldview, guys. And that's... Well, let's just take a look. Worldview, we talk about what's happening in the world, specifically with regards to China. And, well, unfortunately, Namawi or Namewi, or what do you even say it? Namawi?
Yeah.
I'd say it's Namawi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Namawi, who we featured quite a while ago now, like a year ago, last year sometime. He got hacked. So
well, let's explain who he is.
He's
a Malaysian rapper.
Yeah, so he's a Chinese-Malaysian rapper.
Yeah, he raps in Mandarin.
And he made this fantastic song called Fragile, which speaks about the Chinese glass heart, the Wumaus, basically.
The Wumaus. So the paid internet trolls that the Chinese government pays money to go and spread dissent around the world to make sure that everyone pays good attention to China and says China good, and then anything that speaks out against the Chinese government, that's bad, right?
Correct.
So he went to go make a song to combat them because they've always hated his stance on, he's pro-freedom.
Yes.
He's anti-CCP.
Correct. So anyway, he had a YouTube channel which, because of his massive exposure by making this video, made it all the way to 3.7 million subscribers. Okay, huge, massively popular.
6 billion views.
Yeah, 6 billion views. The guy is, like I said, is a talented artist, and you know he's also a human rights activist in a way by making this.
Yeah.
And he got hacked by Russian hackers.
Yep.
Okay. Because, you know, the Russian and the CCP,
here we go.
They work together.
Related, so.
Yeah, they're totally related. So they hacked his account and they actually deleted all of his videos off of his channel, okay? And they replaced the title with basically a very derogatory, like, F your mother, you know,
a homophobic slur.
So, yeah, just say homophobic slur and remove phobic slur, and that's what they called him.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what, and they called, okay, anyway, they called him, just what?
They called him a pile of sticks.
Yes, there we go. They called him a pile of sticks. And they called him, well, they said F your mother and all that kind of nonsense. Okay, some terrible things. So, sorry, it was 3.27, not 3.7, 3.27.
Yeah. Sorry, 1.4 billion views.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's as many people as there are in China.
Yeah.
So each Chinese person watched it once.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, it's awful to see this happening, and hopefully YouTube will set this right and actually, reinstate his channel.
What I wanted to say is the absolute little bitch attitude of these hackers that they did this, like whoever did this, right? Or whoever arranged this to happen, like the Wumau.
Yeah.
How ironic is it that this Chinese Malaysian guy puts out a song about how glass-hearted Wumaus can't handle any criticism about the Chinese government, so they go out there and whine like little bitches, and then they go and take that song down. Yeah. I mean, how ironic is that?
So insecure. So freaking insecure.
It's exactly what the song was about.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know the Streisand effect is going to be so bad.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just terrible. Anyway, so that brings us to the end of Worldview. We are going to basically move in now to our final section, which is our Q&A section, which we title Yamcha, which for some reason I no longer have the freaking title
That's
for.
fine. We'll
I'll fix it. So it's Yamcha time, and for those of you who don't know how this works, it's very different this week because it's a Tuesday and it's not Friday, but usually we leave the Yamcha segment up over the weekend, and we'll leave it up for the rest of the week this week, maybe.
Sure.
And then we cut it off on Monday. So you get to watch it now, and we just basically relax, answer your questions, have a chat. I know this is a very serious video, and that's why it's released early. And that's why we didn't, include a hell of a lot of humor this time, even though we had a lot of humorous things to show you. We'll save that for next week's Friday show, which will be back on track on Friday.
Sure.
Look forward to seeing something on both of our channels, and we can't wait to catch you on the next one. So until then, I'm going to count myself down and not cut myself off, but stay awesome until then anyway. So let's do the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2,